Hi friends, this is Joe from North Fork Ranch. Today I'm getting the beehives ready for the winter. So I'm gonna make sure that they have enough honey in them, take off any extra supers so they have less hive to keep warm. And I'm gonna also treat them for mites with, this is Aptogard, and it's a thymol oil that kills the mites. It's in a sugar feed that the bees will eat. The thymol is a natural essential oil and it kills the mites but doesn't harm the bees. And without the treatment over the winter, when the bees are less active and not raising brood, the mites can kill off a hive if they're not treated. The super on top feels pretty empty, so I'll be able to remove it to have the bees just down to 2 high and have less space they have to keep warm through the winter. There are a few bees up in here that'll need to smoke down. This is the queen excluder, which was here to keep the queen from going up and laying eggs in the honey super. The bees really use extra propolis to really glue things in for the winter and seal up any openings. Now this is a frame of honey. Now I don't like to feed the bees sugar water like some people do in the winter time, so I like to leave plenty of honey on them, which they will need to have for their food. In the winter, bees are not very active, and you need to make sure they have plenty of food so that they don't starve out, because they have to have honey to eat to keep warm. And if they can't keep warm, then the bees will just chill and die out. The bees cluster tightly together to keep each other warm. And if the day is sunny and warm enough in the winter, they will fly out, and if there's any flowers to gather nectar from, they'll even work. But they'll spend a lot of the winter time just all clustered up, keeping themselves warm, just being pretty much inactive. In the cluster, the bees will actually move around where the bees in the middle of the cluster work their way to the outside, and the ones from the outside work their way to the inside, so everybody stays warm. Now usually, as the bees get ready for winter and there hasn't been a honey flow, the queen will normally stop laying. Sometimes there's a little bit of brood, sometimes they don't have any at all. I'm just going to check and see if I see any brood in here. Yep, this one still has brood. And actually it's a warm day, and here's one with pollen on its legs, so there's another one, something blooming that the bees are working right now. So the light brown capping is over brood. This darker right here in the corner is just honey that's sealed. Use a little bit of smoke to keep the bees calmed down. The orange inside is a little bit of pollen that they've been storing in there. And the shiny is some uncapped honey, which they'll be feeding on before they remove caps off of the older honey. More brood. So there's only brood right now in a couple of frames, which if it was in the spring and summer in the honey flow, there'd be brood in most of the frames down here in the bottom box. Now the mite medicine, we're not supposed to touch it because the oil's pretty strong in there. So just lay it over the frames that have a lot of bees in them, and they'll come up around and feed on it. So this hive has plenty of honey on it, and so it's all ready now for the winter. In a month or so, I'll come back through and give it another treatment of against the mites. 2 are recommended to keep the hive mites under control during the winter time. If you live in a colder climate than I do, and you have bees, you may want to also put some insulation or straw or something around the hive, and then have a cover over it to keep the rain off so it'll stay dry. And that'll help the bees conserve warmth and use less honey to winter, and increases their survival rate. Here in our milder winters, we don't need to do that. Okay, and we'll check the next hive here. Also need to check my smoker, make sure I'm not running out of, yeah, I need some more paper. This top one has some honey in it still, and a few bees are in there. When they get ready for cold weather, they sure seal them up tight. It's a shallow super, quite a bit of honey was in there too. This is a nice strong hive with bees all the way across in the brood box. This one I'm going to leave with a 3 hive because it has bees and honey in both of the top supers right now. And now the next hive. This one I'll be able to leave the top off. This one still has plenty of honey in the super. And make sure that the lid will fit down tight. So I'll remove some of the fur comb there. And because I've loosened it and it's on a new place that take more to reseal, it'll go ahead and pack it down. So if it got windy or something, it wouldn't blow off before the bees resealed it. Now for the winter commercial beekeepers, like I used to be, we'll often just pick up the bees from locations that get colder in the winter and move them to a milder climate. In Southern California, we had bees like up in mountain locations for wildflowers that were up there, or higher elevation places, and so we would move them in the winter time to the real mild areas like San Diego County, where there were avocado orchards, and all around Southern California where the winter temperatures were much more mild. In some locations, bees can actually find some flowers to work in the winter, like different kinds of eucalyptus and all. Commercial beekeepers in northern states will often move their bees several states south to have a milder winter area to keep them. Then the bees overwinter in the mild area, either to be there for some kind of spring honey flow, or most of the commercial beekeepers will move the bees from their winter areas in February to almond pollination, and then they start the whole migratory cycle, go from almonds to citrus orchards, and from there to wild sage, wild buckwheat, or alfalfa pollinization, or other kind of fruit crops that require insect pollinization. Some go into plums and apples and peaches, and then later in the summer they'll go to pollinate melons. And this one I'm going to move some of the frames with bees and honey on them into this one, because the bees are kind of just above each other and not filling the whole part of the hive. And if I get more of them down, that'll make it easier for them to keep warm over the winter. So the bees are right in here, and the frames over on this side are empty right now. In our area in the fall, some beekeepers will bring bees in to pollinate cranberries. A little bit of honey in that one, but not much. When you get into the fall and the honey flows stop, then you get them ready for winter all over again. More honey here. This one also has some brood right now. But when I look closely, there's not larvae and eggs, so the queen's not laying right now because of the cooler weather and not much nectar to bring in. It's honey on this side, empty on that side. This is a full frame of honey. That put most of the bees into the bottom hive where they can be clustered together better and keep warmer. I'm going to move the excluder down there too, because they don't need 2 boxes for the brood right now this time of year. And the super above will still has some honey in it for them. And the box that was on top has a little bit of weight to it, so there's a little bit of honey in it, which I'll move into this box so that I can just leave them too high. Now I'll set this back off so I can put in the mite treatment. And now those are ready for the winter. Thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you next time.